Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips, joined by Gamecock great Kip Bouknight. We're taking a look at the Gamecock baseball head coaching vacancy right now, Kip. I was talking with somebody the other day. It's the first time in 20 years that the Gamecocks have had an opening for head baseball coach. When Ray Tanner stepped into the athletic director position 5 years ago, the job immediately was handed off to Chad Holbrook. So you got to go all the way back before Ray Tanner to find the last time that the Gamecocks had a vacancy for the baseball head coaching job. So with the resignation of Chad Holbrook on Tuesday night, that's where the Gamecocks are right now, Kip. And, we're still just a couple of days into this process of trying to find a new baseball coach. Ray Tanner spoke to the media on Wednesday. College baseball is still going on. We got the Super Regionals going on this weekend. So the Sweet 16 of college baseball is going on right now, and it is very understandable to believe that, Ray Tanner may be considering one or more of the coaches that are involved in the Super Regionals this weekend. So we're going to talk about some possible head coaching candidates here for Gamecock baseball today, Kip, and all of the discussion right now, based on everything I've heard and read, indicates that possibly the leader, and again, none of this came from Ray Tanner, you understand, but media and the like are talking about who some of the leaders or front runners for the job might be. And the number one name I'm hearing right now is in the Super Regionals this weekend, and it's Florida head coach Kevin O'Sullivan.
Yeah, Kevin O'Sullivan's obviously been very, very successful down at Florida, and I think he would be a great hire for South Carolina. Maybe not financially. I think it's definitely going to be a situation where we would definitely have to pay him a lot of money because he's already making a lot of money and he's done really, really well at Florida. But, I think that's a scenario that they've always done really well. And I can remember seeing games and even playing games there, and there'd be 1,500 people at a game on Friday night. They just don't really support their baseball team. So that's I'm sure disappointing for someone like Kevin O'Sullivan. So I could see there being reason why he may be a fit for South Carolina, but he may be the leader in kind of the media's eyes right now, and maybe that's the case. I personally think Coach Tanner may go in a different direction, but that doesn't mean that I don't think Coach Tanner would that would be a bad decision at all. I think he'd be a great hire. He brings a lot to the table. He's got a great pitching mind. I would personally love it. I think he would come in and do an excellent job with the pitchers and certainly bring in a lot of guys that we'd end up watching on TV. They'd be pitching in the big leagues. He certainly knows how to coach them up and takes care of his pitchers very, very well.
Kevin O'Sullivan started at Florida in 2008, so he's in his 10th year now with the Gators, and they have made the College World Series 5 of the last 7 years, and they got a chance to make it 6 out of 8. If they can beat Wake Forest this weekend, Florida will advance to another College World Series, national runner-up in 2011 to Ray Tanner and the Gamecocks. So, here's a guy that has demonstrated an ability to have sustained success. He's built Florida into an absolute elite program. Boy, the resume of Kevin O'Sullivan is very impressive. 3 SEC titles, 2 SEC tournament titles. We mentioned the 5 College World Series appearances, looking to make it 6 this year. All this in just 10 years at Florida. Ties to the Palmetto State as well, Kip, for Kevin O'Sullivan, the Florida Gators head coach. Worked 9 years as the pitching coach, recruiting coordinator, and eventually the associate head coach at Clemson under Jack Leggett.
Yeah, Kevin's certainly got a ton of experience, and I think that, if you want a absolute slam dunk and someone I think that would come in and immediately bring great impact to the players, I can't make an argument against Kevin O'Sullivan. But sometimes, unfortunately, there's budgets, and I just don't know. He's got to have backing from the board, I'm sure. But there's one thing I do know, and that's the trust I'm sure that the board has in Ray Tanner. If Coach Tanner feels like Kevin O'Sullivan is the guy, and we need to pay him, then that'll get voted yes. I truly believe that. They know Coach Tanner's certainly kept his eye and hands on baseball all these years, even being an AD now. But and again, couldn't argue with that decision if that's where he goes in pitching Kevin O'Sullivan.
Yeah, the contract for O'Sullivan at Florida is certainly an issue, a hurdle, I would say, Kip. He's making $1.25 million right now. That makes him the highest paid coach in the Southeastern Conference right now already at Florida. And I believe he's in the second year of a 10-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So the buyout there could be substantial. I don't know what the likelihood is that O'Sullivan would leave Florida. Clemson expressed interest in him a few years back, and Texas did the same in the last couple of years here, Kip, and he turned down, potential opportunities to leave Florida for those two jobs. Maybe South Carolina is more attractive. Texas is one of the top jobs in the country, you got to believe, Kip. So Florida Gator fans are saying that, well, if O'Sullivan didn't leave for Clemson or Texas in particular, he's not going to leave for South Carolina. But you have to wonder, how much that lack of fan support means to Kevin O'Sullivan. If he wants to go somewhere where baseball is a very huge priority, he could certainly do that at South Carolina, but I think the same would also be true at Texas and to some degree Clemson.
Well, yeah, right. But you know what? You never know what's going on in people's lives. And, for all we know, he's got family in South Carolina. I don't know. I mean, it's just, there's 2 years or how many ever that's been since he had the chance to go to Clemson or Texas. I mean, things change, in life, and it's more to just the baseball side of it. So, again, if that's the route Coach Tanner decides to go, it certainly wouldn't be a bad decision in my opinion at all.
Kip, he's already making $1.25 million a year. How much do you think the Gamecocks? How much more do you think South Carolina would have to offer him to get him to come to Columbia? $1.5 million?
Well, again, I mean, I could see it being incentive-based program that maybe we get him for $1 million or 1.25. Again, he may be ready to go. A lot of that depends, and Coach Tanner, I'm sure, has talked to several of these candidates and several of the coaches along the way. You can't be an athletic director and not have a plan B and C. His plan A was Chad Holbrook, and hopefully it was going to work out, and I think he gave him time for it to work out, and it did. So I'm sure here in the last two and a half years, I'm sure Coach Tanner has definitely had conversations with probably all of these candidates, maybe not all of them, but probably even more, just to find out their feel. Hey, if something ever happened, would you like to come to South Carolina? That type of thing. And he's probably gauging the field, if you will. So he's got to be prepared. I can assure you that. You're not going to catch him not prepared. So he's prepared to make the decision, and I support no matter what he decides. I really believe it'll be a good decision.
All right, Kevin O'Sullivan is a Virginia grad, and in his 10th year at Florida playing Wake Forest in the Super Regionals this weekend. If they can win that series, they're going to head to the College World Series for the 6th time in 8 years, but no national titles for Kevin O'Sullivan. Florida has never won the national championship in baseball, but my goodness, are they knocking on the door. So, Kip, let's suppose that O'Sullivan, and again, it's all speculation at this point, unless you have talked directly with Ray Tanner, you don't know what's going on with the coaching search, but a lot of speculation, obviously, about what could happen, what might happen, and O'Sullivan's name seems to be the hottest one right now. So let's suppose that O'Sullivan is Ray Tanner's top choice right now, but for whatever reason, O'Sullivan does not come to Columbia. Let's take a look a little bit further down the list, Kip, and talk about some other names who might be on it, and we're not going to go in any particular order here, but we will talk about Clemson head coach Monty Lee, who would be considered, I think, a no-brainer for South Carolina because of Lee's ties to South Carolina. You mentioned earlier this week on Gamecock Central Radio that Monty Lee grew up a Gamecock fan. He's from Kershaw County. He went to Lugolf-Elgin High School, previously the head coach at College of Charleston, and now doing a great job up there at Clemson. And we talked about this earlier this week, Kip. It seems doubtful at best right now that Monty Lee would leave Clemson to take the Gamecocks job. You wouldn't rule it out, but it doesn't feel promising right now.
Well, you know what, though? You never know. I mean, I can't imagine Monty Lee and Ray Tanner not still having a great relationship. I'm sure he was disappointed that he didn't start off or make the transition from South Carolina assistant recruiting coordinator to head coach. But hey, it's you never know, and until things end up being shaken out. But he would definitely be my first choice. He would be my absolute first phone call, the first one that I would say, hey, do you want this job? And if you do, all right, we'd like to offer it to you. That would be my first choice. And after that, honestly, would be Josh Holliday. He would be my close. It'd be probably 1 and 1A or 1A and 1B. That's definitely my two favorite choices that are out there.
Tell us more about him, Kip. Josh Holliday, the head coach at Oklahoma State.
He's the head coach at Oklahoma State. Comes from a great baseball family. His dad, Tom Holliday, recruited me when I was in high school. Wonderful man, awesome family. His brother, Matt Holliday, and I, we played together in the Rockies organization. It was his 6th year of Double-A, my first year of Double-A, and we played double and triple A for 3 years together, and just learned a ton from Matt. I mean, he's just his knowledge. He's a student of the game. He's a worker. I mean, he was at the field every day at 12 o'clock. So the amount of lessons I got for free every single day were just absolutely amazing. I mean, I literally can remember pitching games in AAA Colorado Springs with Matt playing left field, and he would literally, I'd look back, and he would have watched, the hitter's reaction to my pitch, and he would literally, look at me and tell me what pitch to throw. And I mean, it was so funny because, nobody ever knew it. You probably had no idea watching the game, just a bystander, but he literally would do that. And in between innings, we'd talk about it, or after the game, in our hotel room playing PlayStation till midnight or 2 in the morning, we would talk about that situation, how I should pitch that guy, what reaction he, what his swing looked like, and why he was telling me to throw a changeup, or why he was telling me to throw a cutter or a sinker or whatever it might be. And that's how I learned. That is how I learned all the things we've talked about for the last several years on this show is through a guy like Matt Holliday. So I can tell you this much: it would be an absolute slam dunk winner, in my opinion, getting a guy like Josh Holliday on this staff, and I would be 15.
Yeah, Gamecock fans should be at least somewhat familiar with Josh Holliday because Oklahoma State came to Columbia and beat the Gamecocks at Founders Park in the Super Regionals last year. So Josh Holliday has done a fantastic job at Oklahoma State. Don't know how high he is on the list of possible candidates at this point, but again, we don't know about any of these guys because we have not spoken with Ray Tanner, and he's the only man that knows right now. Kip, what about Dan McDonald, head coach at Louisville, worked at the Citadel previously?
Yeah, Coach Mack recruited me. He was at the Citadel. I got to know him over 3 or 4 years in high school, and awesome coach, awesome recruiter, very much a student of the game. I think he's done wonders at Louisville. I personally don't think he would leave Louisville to come to South Carolina unless he just, I think he's from South Carolina. I know he's at the Citadel a long time. I played against him in college. That would be another slam dunk. I mean, they're great coaches. I mean, there are some great coaches in college baseball, and I think he'd do a wonderful job here. I just don't know if it's going to come down to, does Coach Tanner want to spend 1.2 to 1.5, or does he want to get a guy like Josh Holliday for 650 or 700 or 500 or 550? Because he probably could do that. I think Josh is making maybe 450, something like that. So that would be a big step up for him to get, maybe 550 or 600 come to the SEC.
Kip, another coach that I heard mentioned a lot in the early hours of the opening for South Carolina baseball is Virginia head coach Brian O'Connor. I have not heard as much about him in the last day or two since he was kind of one of the first names thrown out there. And this is O'Connor, the Virginia head coach, won the national title at Virginia in 2015, 5-time ACC Coach of the Year. I don't know how much steam there is behind this. Virginia, we talked about it before we started the show today. They've got more scholarships for baseball than South Carolina and most schools across the country. Most schools have 11.7. Virginia is able to have more. I'm not clear on how those rules work. Maybe you can tell us more about that, but what do you think about Brian O'Connor from Virginia?
I don't know much about him other than the fact he's had a lot of great success. So I really have not watched Virginia baseball much over the last several years other than when they won the national championship. So I'd be lying if I said I knew much about him. But I think he's, a pretty young guy. I think it would, again, it's going to go back to, I think he's got a pretty good salary, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's the first decision Coach Tanner had to really look at is, okay, what's my budget? Where do I want to go with this? Because, as a fan, we want to just say, oh, God, go get this guy. That's the guy. Well, as an athletic director, there's budget. There's a lot of things that, it's just not his decision. I mean, yes, it is his decision, but he's got to have the full support of the board, and there's budgets involved, and, age comes a factor. I think most of these folks we're talking about are coaches that could come in and coach for another 10, 15, 20 years. So I don't think age is an option or a hurdle, I should say, for any of these ones we're talking about. But I'm not 100% sure, Emerson, how the scholarships work with places like Virginia and Vanderbilt. I just know, I think it has something to do with the endowments and it's something with academic money. I know that. I mean, these kids that make whatever on the SAT and they can come in with good grades. I just know I have heard that essentially almost every player on Vanderbilt's team's on full scholarship. I don't think it's for that level at Virginia, but what a major, major advantage for coaches like that. And I'm certainly not taking anything away from Virginia's coach and our Tim Corbin from Vanderbilt. So I think it would be a tough sell to either one of those guys just because of that. Because the 11.7 is, you're talking about a tough sport to have to recruit year in, year out when you only have 11.7. That's a tough obstacle for those guys.
Kip, there's two coaches' names that I have not really heard. Well, one I've not heard mentioned at all that I thought might be someone that will at least get a look, and that's Gary Gilmore at Coastal Carolina. And Gilmore has said that he has not been contacted by South Carolina. And another coach that I thought would get some consideration for the job, who also said he has not been contacted by South Carolina, is former Gamecock assistant Mark Calvi. And I know you know a great deal about him. Mark Calvi, the head coach at South Alabama, doing a good job with that program. Not a very well-known brand name program, certainly, but Calvi's doing a great job with South Alabama. So what are the odds that, if some of these bigger names don't work out, that Ray Tanner goes and gets a guy like Mark Calvi, a guy that he knows very well?
Yeah, I don't know why I don't see it. I'd love to see it. I love Coach Calvi. I think Coach Calvi did a number of great things for the baseball program. He really did a wonderful job of controlling the pitching staff and using 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pitchers a year instead of the normal 4 to 7 that normally was the case under a Jerry Myers ran pitching staff. So I think he would be an excellent hire as well. I don't know why. I just don't think that's going to be the fit. And I can't put my finger on it. I wish I could, but I just don't think that's going to be the fit. I heard that he turned down the Tennessee job, which surprises me. But I don't know if going to Tennessee's not maybe it's a really difficult place to recruit. I can see that being the case in the SEC. It's probably definitely not one of the easier ones to recruit at. So the fact that he turned down that job surprises me a little, but you never know. Maybe there's something better for him in the wings that he knew about. So, not saying that I know that. I certainly don't. But, maybe there's something bigger and better out there for him coming. We'll see. And as far as Coastal Carolina, I don't see that being an option. I don't think that's an option for South Carolina. I don't think they'd go there. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if the relationship with Tanner and Coach Gilmore is very good. I'm not sure, but I don't think that would be an option.
Yeah, Gilmore's 60 years old, I believe, so I think South Carolina is certainly looking for somebody a little bit younger than that, like you said, that could coach another 10 or 15 years somewhere in that ballpark. I'm not sure Coach Gilmore, as good a coach as he is, fits that bill. Coastal did win the national championship last year, but I think South Carolina looking for somebody a little bit younger right now. So, Kip, let's talk about a couple of Big Ten coaches. Maybe these guys are, if they're even on the list at all, they're probably a little bit further down the list. But Eric Bakich at Michigan has taken a Michigan program that did nothing for a very long time, and he's gotten them to the playoffs, I think, 2 of the last 3 years. Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned as a possible candidate for the South Carolina job. And the other Big Ten coach that has ties to South Carolina is Indiana head coach Chris Lemonis. Socastee High School graduate Chris Lemonis has done great things with the Indiana baseball program, another school that has no baseball tradition whatsoever, but he's done a great job building that program up into a top 25 program.
Yeah, I could see those guys being potential hires. Those, in my opinion, would be not really big names. So is Coach Tanner going for the big name, or is he, again, I think it comes down to, you break down the tiers, in my opinion, based upon if you knew what kind of budget he's working with. And again, I'm not quite sure of that, but both of those guys have had wonderful success at programs that probably don't have the support that a program like South Carolina does. There's, I would not think there's, more than 5 or 6 programs in the country that are that much more supported than South Carolina, especially from a fan base. The fans want wins here. They want us to go to Omaha, and the expectations are real high. So, again, I think this is something folks are going to say, well, if Coach Tanner decided tomorrow or today or 2 weeks from now, again, I truly feel like Coach Tanner has had his top 3 that he knows he wants to get, and I'm sure he had an order probably 3 or 4 months ago, probably even before the season started. So I know it won't be a rush decision. It'll be a well-calculated decision. And I think Coach Tanner will certainly make a good decision, but time will tell.
A lot of speculation at this point, who the Gamecocks may end up hiring to be the next baseball coach. We don't know. Ray Tanner's not talking, and until we hear anything from him, it's all speculation, Kip. So, we're just trying to give people a general idea of some of the names that are out there. And, again, until we hear from Ray Tanner, it's just really hard to know exactly what is going to happen or what he's thinking at this point. So we'll continue to monitor the situation. We'll come back. We'll talk more about it here on Gamecock Central Radio, Kip. It's an unusual feeling, to have a vacancy for the Gamecock baseball head coaching job. It's the first time in 20 years that's happened, and it's just been a strange week. I tell you what, man, it's been strange.
It has, but you know what? I think that's a testament to the program and obviously the Hall of Fame career that Coach Tanner had as a head coach, and certainly a wonder, and a good job for the most part for Chad Holbrook. So, I mean, it's anytime your program really don't have to have a coaching search for 20 years, that's saying a lot of good things.
Kip, there's a lot of programs that have good facilities, financial support, tradition. South Carolina is certainly one of those, and we could put a number of other schools, Texas and LSU, and many others in that list. But to me, what makes the South Carolina job so valuable right now is the fact that you are working for Ray Tanner. How many other schools have a former baseball coach as an athletic director? To me, Kip, that's got to mean something, and to me that makes the South Carolina job more valuable than many others.
Well, I think it is valuable. I mean, Coach Tanner's going to understand. I mean, I feel like, again, I feel like he did make the right decision, and Coach Holbrook, resigning or whatever, but him moving on. Having said that, I don't think coaches are going to be, they know the expectations are going to be high, but I think they know that they're going to be able to, have a good 4 to 6 years to be able to make an impact. And working for a guy like Coach Tanner, I'm sure will be a great opportunity for anyone coming in.
All right, a lot of speculation at this point, but that is all it is. Kip, have you talked to Ray Tanner? I have not.
No, I haven't, but if I had, I wouldn't tell.
All right, Kip, let's get together again soon, man. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks so much.
That's Kip Bouknight, Gamecock great, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. We'll continue to take a look at this Gamecock baseball coaching search here on GCR. Thanks for being with us.